In a world built on comfort and distraction, the greatest power you can master is discipline. This audiobook, How to Force Yourself to Be Disciplined, will rewire your mind to conquer laziness, excuses, and self-doubt. Across 10 powerful chapters, you'll learn how to break comfort, control your mind, master mornings, destroy distractions, and build unstoppable consistency. I'm Jessica, and this is Premium Audiobooks, where words transform into power. Subscribe now for life-changing audiobooks that sharpen your focus, fuel your purpose, and help you rise above mediocrity. Every story here builds strength. Every lesson builds you. Let's begin. Number 1. Break comfort. Build habits through repetition. Discipline begins at the edge of comfort. Growth never happens in the spaces where everything feels easy, predictable, or safe. The mind seeks comfort because comfort means security, and security means survival. But in the modern world, that instinct becomes a trap. Comfort is no longer just physical. It's mental, emotional, and digital. It's the endless scrolling, the procrastination masked as rest, the decision to start tomorrow instead of now. Discipline demands that you break that comfort, not once, but every single day. It's not about grand acts of willpower. It's about repetition, small, deliberate choices that slowly rewire your mind to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it. Every person who achieves mastery, no matter the field, carries one truth. They trained themselves to move beyond comfort, until discipline became their nature. Comfort feels good for a moment, but it costs long-term peace. The person who learns to act, despite discomfort, gains control over life itself. That's the hidden truth behind discipline. It's not punishment, it's power. Power over impulses, over fear, over hesitation. The one who builds habits through repetition becomes unshakable. The process begins by understanding the nature of comfort. Comfort is seductive because it offers immediate relief. The mind whispers, "You've done enough," even when you haven't started. It tells you that the small effort doesn't matter, that rest is deserved before work begins. Breaking comfort is not about rejecting rest. It's about reclaiming control. Rest is valuable when it's earned. Comfort is destructive when it's constant. When you wake up and the alarm goes off, the decision to get up or stay down defines your relationship with comfort. It's not the alarm you're fighting, it's your instinct for ease. The moment you move anyway, you take back command. Discipline begins in these micro moments. You don't need motivation, you need momentum. One disciplined act leads to another. The repetition of action, even when it feels small, creates new neurological patterns. The brain adapts to what you repeatedly do. When you choose discomfort, exercise instead of rest, focus instead of distraction, learning instead of scrolling, you are literally training your brain to prefer strength over ease. Over time, what was once difficult becomes automatic. This is how habits form, through consistent repetition, until resistance weakens and behavior becomes instinct. But the truth is, this process will always feel unnatural at first. The early stages of any disciplined practice are uncomfortable because the mind resists change. It clings to what's familiar. This resistance isn't a sign of failure. It's proof you're growing. Every time you push through, you build psychological armor. You learn that discomfort won't break you. You ease that you can endure far more than your emotions suggest. Most people quit because they interpret discomfort as a signal to stop. The disciplined person understands it's a signal to continue. To build habits through repetition, you must first identify what truly matters. Discipline without direction is just exhaustion. You need a clear purpose, a reason to endure discomfort. That purpose becomes your anchor when the feeling fades. Ask yourself, what kind of person do you want to be? Not what goals you want to achieve, but who you must become to achieve them. If you aim to be stronger, healthier, wiser, calmer, then every repeated action should align with that identity. Habits are not just tasks. They are expressions of who you decide to be. Once your purpose is clear, start with one behavior. Simplicity builds sustainability. Pick a single habit that, if done daily, will move you closer to your ideal self. It could be waking up early, journaling your thoughts, reading 10 pages, or exercising for 20 minutes. The key is not the scale of the action, but its consistency. Too many people chase intensity and burn out after a week. True discipline grows in the quiet persistence of doing small things without fail. You can't transform your life overnight, but you can transform your day, and repeating that day changes everything. When you repeat an action daily, you reduce friction. The decision becomes automatic. You no longer debate with yourself. You simply act. That's the purpose of repetition. To remove negotiation from the process, discipline becomes less about willpower and more about structure. You're not trying to feel ready. You're building a system where readiness doesn't matter. Over time, this system liberates you. You stop being a slave to moods and impulses. You act because it's who you are. Breaking comfort also requires honesty. The hardest part of discipline isn't the action, it's facing your own excuses. The mind is clever. It justifies avoidance with logic. I'm tired. I'll start when I'm more prepared. It's not the right time. Each excuse reinforces weakness. Every time you obey it, you teach yourself that emotion decides action. But when you act anyway, you teach yourself that reason rules over feelings. That's the foundation of inner strength, acting according to principle, not preference. This doesn't mean pushing until you collapse. It means building self-respect through consistency. When you do what you said you would, even in small ways, you create trust within yourself. That trust becomes confidence. You stop doubting your ability to follow through. You become the kind of person whose word has weight, especially your own word. Confidence isn't loud. It's quiet certainty, born from repeated proof. To make repetition sustainable, attach habits to triggers. For example, if you want to build a writing habit, connect it to your morning coffee. If you want to exercise, link it to finishing work. The trigger removes the need for decision-making. The brain learns, when this happens, I do that. Over time, repetition anchored to consistent cues becomes second nature. This is how discipline transforms from effort to identity. Another key element is embracing imperfection. Many people quit because they miss a day or fall short. Discipline isn't about never failing. It's about never staying down. Missing one day means nothing. Surrendering to guilt means everything. The disciplined person doesn't seek perfection. They seek progress. The focus is on returning to the path faster each time they fall. The goal isn't to avoid failure, but to reduce recovery time. That's what repetition truly teaches. The art of resilience. Breaking comfort also means learning to sit with boredom. Discipline isn't always exciting. It's repetitive by nature. And repetition can feel dull. But boredom is not your enemy. It's the threshold of mastery. Every great athlete, artist, or leader learns to find peace in repetition. They understand that greatness lives in the unglamorous details. The same action done 1,000 times with care refines character. The world celebrates results, but forgets the process. You must learn to love the process, even when no one sees it, because it's the process that shapes who you become. In every moment of discomfort, there's a choice. You can retreat to ease or advance toward strength. That choice, repeated daily, defines your destiny. Each act of discipline, waking up early, speaking truthfully, staying focused, finishing the task, is a vote for the person you wish to be. The more you vote, the stronger that identity becomes. Eventually, you stop forcing yourself to be disciplined. You simply are disciplined. The real reward of breaking comfort isn't the achievements that follow. It's the transformation of the self. You gain control over your mind, your body, your emotions. You learn to act with purpose, not impulse. You discover peace not through ease, but through mastery. Every habit you build becomes a brick in the foundation of your future. Repetition is the architect of greatness. So wake up and do the work, even when it's hard. Show up for yourself when no one's watching. Build habits that serve your highest vision. Every repetition strengthens the muscle of will. And with time, that strength becomes character. Comfort will always whisper, but discipline will always lead you to freedom. Number 2. Discipline begins where motivation always fades. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the fire that keeps burning long after the excitement is gone. The world glorifies motivation as if it were the source of all progress, but motivation is unreliable. It comes when things are easy, when the path is clear, when emotions align with goals. Discipline, however, begins when all of that fades, when the thrill disappears, when fatigue sets in, when no one is cheering, and the reward feels distant. Those moments define the difference between people who wish for progress and those who live it. The disciplined do not rely on feeling ready, they rely on commitment. They act because the action is required, not because the feeling is pleasant. That is where real strength is born. Every meaningful pursuit in life will eventually lead to a place where motivation cannot carry you further. The excitement of starting something new fades, the novelty disappears, and the effort begins to feel heavy. It happens to everyone. The gym feels inspiring on day 1, exhausting on day 10, and burdensome on day 30. The project that once filled you with energy turns into a grind. In that quiet space where no one claps and the initial energy fades, most people stop. They confuse the loss of motivation with a loss of purpose. But purpose does not disappear just because enthusiasm does. It's in that gap between emotion and obligation that discipline steps forward and says continue. Discipline is the decision to act without negotiation. It doesn't argue with fatigue or seek permission from inspiration. It's the internal order that replaces emotional instability with consistency. This is why those who depend on motivation always start strong and finish weak. Motivation asks, "Do I feel like it?" Discipline says, "It must be done." The shift from one to the other is not glamorous, but it's the turning point of every transformation. Motivation is a visitor, discipline is a resident. To understand why discipline must replace motivation, one must recognize that emotions are temporary. Feelings change with weather, with sleep, with circumstance. If you rely on how you feel to determine what you do, you'll live a life of inconsistency. The disciplined mind knows that feelings are signals, not commands. It observes them without obedience. You may not feel like waking early, studying, training, or creating, but none of those feelings define your ability to do so. The task doesn't care about your emotion. Reality rewards execution, not enthusiasm. The people who achieve mastery are not those who always feel inspired, but those who act regardless of inspiration. Discipline begins with the acceptance that boredom, fatigue, and doubt are part of the process. The mind naturally resists repetition when excitement fades. It will whisper that something new would feel better. It will convince you that taking a break is harmless, but every time you yield to that whisper, you weaken your ability to stay committed. When you stay the course instead, something remarkable happens. You build internal strength. The longer you stay consistent without external motivation, the more resilient you become. That resilience becomes your anchor in every challenge ahead. Motivation makes you chase the feeling of progress. Discipline makes you create it. There will be days when progress feels invisible, when results are not immediate, when effort seems wasted. Those are the days when discipline proves its worth. Anyone can act when the reward is visible. The disciplined act when there is no proof yet, trusting that consistent effort will bring results in time. This mindset separates achievers from dreamers. You can't depend on the rush of emotion to build something that lasts. You must depend on repetition guided by principle. The reason so many fail to sustain progress is that they mistake excitement for commitment. Excitement fades. Commitment remains. When motivation vanishes, you must have something stronger to stand on. A structure, a schedule, a reason deeper than feeling. A disciplined person doesn't wake up asking what they want to do. They wake up knowing what must be done. They don't chase balance through constant comfort. They find balance through controlled action. The beauty of discipline is that it removes the chaos of decision-making. You stop debating with yourself. You stop waiting for the right moment. You start doing what's right now. To cultivate this mindset, begin with clarity. Know what you want and why it matters. When your purpose is clear, action becomes less dependent on emotion. Write down your goals, not as wishes but as promises. Then, build routines that support those promises. The more structured your day, the less space emotion has to interfere. Structure doesn't confine you. It frees you from distraction. When you commit to a routine, you stop searching for motivation because your actions are already decided. The power of routine lies in its ability to turn obligation into instinct. However, Discipline is not blind rigidity. It's intelligent consistency. It's adjusting without abandoning. There will be days when you must rest, days when you must adapt. But the principle remains unchanged. You never stop showing up. The disciplined person understands that rest is strategic, not impulsive. They rest to recover, not to escape. There's a vast difference between recovery and avoidance, and knowing that difference is part of mastering discipline. The process will test your patience. The early stages of any effort are full of visible results, but as you continue, progress slows. This is the point where most people give up because the emotional reward disappears. True discipline thrives in that silence. The most powerful growth happens in unseen effort. The work you do when no one notices builds the foundation for everything others will one day admire. Each unseen repetition, each quiet act of persistence, each day you show up without applause, those moments define your strength. To live a disciplined life, you must redefine your relationship with discomfort. You must see difficulty not as an obstacle but as a teacher. The absence of motivation is not a sign of weakness. It's an invitation to grow. Every time you act without motivation, you train your mind to value progress over pleasure. That's where maturity begins. You realize that doing what is right is far greater than doing what feels right. Discipline also teaches humility. It reminds you that greatness is built, not gifted. The world often praises talent, but talent without discipline collapses under pressure. The disciplined person understands that talent may open doors, but consistency keeps them open. Every skill, every success, every transformation is earned one quiet day at a time. Discipline is what transforms potential into reality. When motivation fades, as it always will, remember that action reignites it. Action fuels motivation, not the other way around. When you start moving, even with low energy or doubt, you create momentum. That momentum breeds confidence, and confidence restores motivation. The paradox is clear. If you wait to feel ready, you never begin. If you begin despite not feeling ready, readiness follows. Discipline teaches this truth through experience. Over time, discipline changes your identity. You begin to see yourself differently. You stop identifying as someone who tries and start identifying as someone who follows through. That identity shift is powerful. It creates self-respect. And once you respect yourself, you stop betraying your own standards. That's the invisible transformation discipline offers. The quiet strength of knowing you will do what needs to be done, even when no one expects it from you. The final truth is this. Motivation is a gift, but discipline is freedom. Motivation feels good but fades fast. Discipline feels demanding but builds unbreakable peace. Motivation might start the journey, but only discipline ensures you arrive. Life rewards those who act when it's hardest, not those who wait for perfect conditions. Every day you choose to act without motivation, you forge a stronger mind, a steadier will, and a freer spirit. When you stand in that quiet space where enthusiasm has vanished, and the task feels heavy, that is your defining moment. That's where character is built. That's where you separate yourself from who you were yesterday. Discipline begins where motivation always fades. And in that space of perseverance, you find the version of yourself you were always meant to become. Number 3. Design routines that remove daily choice. The mind tires not from action, but from indecision. Every day, countless small choices drain your mental energy before you even reach what truly matters. What to wear, when to start, what to eat, when to work. All these decisions consume focus and willpower that could be directed toward progress. The disciplined individual understands that the path to consistency is not paved with endless decisions, but with deliberate design. By creating structured routines, you remove the noise of daily choice and free your mind to execute with clarity. Routine is not confinement, it is liberation from chaos. It's the art of making the important automatic so that your energy can serve the essential. The world often praises spontaneity, yet those who accomplish lasting results know that freedom is built on structure. A musician practices scales not because it's exciting, but because it creates precision. An athlete repeats drills not for entertainment, but for mastery. Routine gives order to effort. Without it, energy scatters, Every day spent improvising decisions is a day spent negotiating with distraction. When your actions are structured, you no longer depend on willpower, you depend on rhythm. You stop asking yourself what to do. You simply do what's next. The human brain is designed to seek patterns. It feels safest in predictability. When you create a daily system, you align your biology with your ambition. Each repeated sequence of behavior becomes a cue for focus. For example, if your day always begins with the same set of actions, rising, exercising, eating, and working, the body and mind synchronize. You don't need to summon energy to start. The pattern itself triggers motion. This is why disciplined people seem to operate effortlessly. It's not because they possess greater strength. It's because they've removed friction through design. Designing an effective routine starts with identifying your most valuable hours. Every person has periods in the day when their mind is sharpest and their focus deepest. For some, it's early morning. For others, late night. Protect those hours with intention. Fill them only with the work that truly matters. Everything else can orbit around that core. The key is not to fill every moment with tasks, but to define what each moment means. A routine is not a list of chores, it's a framework that ensures your time serves your priorities. Once you establish structure, the mind begins to relax into discipline. The anxiety that comes from uncertainty disappears. You don't waste energy debating when to begin or what to do next. This mental stillness becomes one of the greatest advantages of a routine. Decision fatigue, the silent enemy of productivity, loses its grip. You no longer need to muster courage each time you act. You follow the design you built when your mind was clear and determined. The disciplined understand that systems guard them when motivation fluctuates. However, creating a routine requires honesty about your tendencies. Many people design schedules that look ideal, but are unsustainable because they ignore their natural rhythms. The goal is not to copy someone else's habits, but to build one that fits your reality. A good routine is both demanding and humane. It challenges you without crushing your spirit. It gives you direction without suffocating flexibility. Start with the essential anchors of your day, the fixed points that guide everything else. That could be waking up at the same time, dedicating an hour to deep work, committing to exercise, and protecting time for reflection. These anchors hold your day steady, no matter what storms arise. Over time, routine transforms behavior into instinct. When actions repeat long enough, they bypass resistance. You no longer require emotional energy to perform them. This is why the most disciplined individuals appear calm amid chaos. Their systems carry them forward. They don't rely on last-minute bursts of motivation or constant reminders. They've built an environment that enforces their standards automatically. When your surroundings, schedule, and habits all align, discipline becomes effortless. You stop battling your mind because your environment now fights for you. The design of your day should reflect your values. What you schedule reveals what you honor. If your time is filled with distractions, it's not time that's missing. It's alignment. To design a purposeful routine, begin by defining what truly deserves space. Cut away what doesn't. Simplicity breeds power. The fewer decisions you face, the more energy you preserve for what matters. Many fail not from lack of effort, but from scattered focus. They spend their strength on trivialities and have nothing left for transformation. Routine restores that focus. It teaches you to direct your attention like a blade, sharp, intentional, and unwavering. A well-crafted routine also brings emotional stability. Chaos feeds anxiety. Predictability nurtures calm. When you know what to expect from your day, you reduce stress and create space for deeper work. You move from reaction to intention. The morning no longer begins with randomness. It begins with clarity. You don't check your phone first. You breathe, you center yourself, you act. Such small decisions, repeated daily, accumulate into power. They shape your identity. You stop feeling at the mercy of circumstances and start feeling in control of yourself. But structure alone is not enough. It must be protected. Routines die in environments of constant interruption. Guard your time as if it were currency. Because it is, discipline requires boundaries. If you've set aside an hour for focused work, treat it as sacred. Say no to distractions. Not out of arrogance, but out of respect for your mission. When you treat your schedule with seriousness, others learn to do the same. Consistency communicates commitment. You teach the world how to treat your time by how you treat it yourself. There will be days when the routine feels dull, repetitive, or inconvenient. Those are the days that define its value. The power of structure lies not in how exciting it feels, but in how stable it remains. Life will always present chaos, unexpected problems, shifting emotions, sudden demands. Routine anchors you amid those storms. It reminds you that no matter what happens outside, there is order within. That inner order becomes a shield against distraction and despair. Some believe that structure kills creativity, but in truth, it fuels it. When the basics of your day are organized, your mind is free to explore deeper ideas. Chaos might inspire, but structure sustains. The greatest thinkers, artists, and leaders built routines not to limit themselves, but to give their creativity a stable ground to flourish. They understood that creativity without discipline is noise, and discipline without creativity is rigidity. A wise routine balances both. It provides order while leaving room for growth. Routine also strengthens integrity. When you live by design rather than impulse, you develop trust in yourself. You become dependable not only to others but to your own goals. Each day completed according to your plan reinforces self-respect. You stop being someone who merely wishes for change and become someone who enforces it. This quiet confidence spreads into every area of life. You walk with steadiness because you know your actions align with your purpose. The truth is, designing routines that remove daily choice is not about perfection. It's about preparation. It's about creating an environment that supports your best self before emotion has the chance to interfere. When you wake, you don't wonder if you'll work. You already know when and how. When temptation appears, your schedule shields you. When fatigue whispers, your structure answers. That is the essence of discipline, not the suppression of desire, but the organization of life around purpose. Eventually, what begins as structure becomes identity. The person who once needed a routine becomes the person whose life is the routine, a rhythm of consistent effort guided by intention. You don't force yourself to follow it anymore. It follows you. The day flows with precision, the mind remains clear, and the spirit stays centered. You no longer chase balance. You live it. When the day is over and you look back, you will see how structure shaped your freedom. You will realize that by removing unnecessary choices, you gained control over the most important one, the choice of who you are becoming. Routine, when built with wisdom, does not imprison you. It empowers you. It frees you from the endless noise of indecision and anchors you to the quiet power of purpose. Through design, discipline becomes effortless, and in that effortlessness, you find true freedom. Number 4. Train mind to obey, not negotiate. The mind is both a servant and a master, depending on which role you train it to play. For most people, it commands. It convinces, persuades, and manipulates them into doing what feels comfortable rather than what is necessary. It argues with logic, bargains with emotion, and always finds a reason to delay. But true discipline begins when you reverse that relationship, when the mind learns to obey instruction instead of negotiate with desire. It's not about silencing thought. It's about teaching thought its proper place. The untrained mind is loud and impulsive. The trained mind is quiet and obedient. Mastering yourself means mastering that inner dialogue that constantly seeks comfort and excuses. The reason many fail to remain consistent is not because they lack ability, but because they entertain conversation with weakness. Every goal is sabotaged, not by failure, but by the moment of negotiation before the act. The alarm rings, and the mind whispers, 5 more minutes, the task waits, and it says, you can do it later. That small debate is the birthplace of regret. The mind loves to delay action under the illusion of logic. It will offer reasons, rationalizations, and endless debates. But every second spent negotiating with hesitation is time stolen from progress. Discipline demands silence in those moments, not the absence of thought, but the refusal to entertain useless discussion. Obedience is not submission to force. It's alignment with purpose. To train the mind to obey means to give it clear orders and ensure it follows without question. This is not harshness, it's precision. The strongest individuals operate from command, not conversation. They have trained themselves to act before emotion interferes. This obedience creates power because it eliminates hesitation. When the mind obeys direction, life moves forward with speed and certainty. There is no wasted motion, no scattered focus, only deliberate execution. Training the mind begins with awareness. You must observe your thoughts as they arise without becoming entangled in them. Most people live as prisoners of their thoughts, believing that every idea deserves attention. But the disciplined mind understands that thoughts are suggestions, not truths. You decide which ones to act on. When the impulse to delay or avoid appears, you acknowledge it, but you do not yield to it. You act anyway. Each time you do, you reinforce authority. You show the mind who commands. Over time, resistance weakens, and obedience strengthens. The mind learns that hesitation has no audience, that excuses fall on deaf ears. The practice of obedience requires clear internal language. Vague commands lead to negotiation. When you tell yourself, "I should probably work out today," the word probably gives the mind room to argue. When you say, "I will work out at 6," the conversation ends. Certainty kills debate. Your instructions must be direct and specific. The more decisive your words, the more disciplined your behavior. The mind mirrors your clarity. Ambiguity breeds delay. Precision breeds action. There's also a vital difference between control and suppression. To control the mind is not to deny emotion or resist thought, it's to direct them toward purpose. Suppression creates tension. Guidance creates strength. When the mind obeys your higher goals, even discomfort becomes fuel. You're not fighting your thoughts, you're channeling them. The untrained mind says, "I can't." The trained mind says, "This is hard, but I will." It doesn't reject difficulty, it transforms it into discipline. Every time you allow negotiation, you teach your mind that your commands are flexible. It learns that resistance gets rewarded. If you say you'll wake at 5 but sleep until 7, the mind learns that your word holds no authority. But when you rise exactly as promised, you train it to respect your direction. Each small act of follow-through becomes a lesson in obedience. You are conditioning yourself to act with integrity. The person who does what they said they would, even when unseen, develops unshakable inner strength. One effective way to train obedience is through immediate action. When you decide to do something, act within seconds. That short window prevents the mind from building excuses. Hesitation is the breeding ground of resistance. The longer you wait, the stronger the negotiation becomes. By acting quickly, you bypass the internal debate and prove to yourself that you are in charge. Over time, this habit becomes reflexive. You stop delaying because the mind knows delay will not be tolerated. It's also essential to reduce emotional attachment to tasks. The mind loves to measure every action by comfort. It asks, "Do I feel like it?" The disciplined person no longer asks that question. They have trained themselves to act independent of feeling. This doesn't mean ignoring emotion. It means refusing to let emotion determine direction. Feelings are like weather. They change without notice. You cannot build a steady life on unstable mood. When the mind obeys reason instead of impulse, every decision becomes grounded in principle, not preference. There's deep peace in obedience. When the mind stops arguing, the noise fades, focus sharpens. You become efficient, calm, and composed. You no longer waste energy fighting yourself. The energy once spent on internal battles becomes available for creation, learning, and progress. The world outside may remain chaotic, but inside there is order. That inner order is the essence of discipline. A mind that follows direction with precision and purpose. To develop this level of control, practice simple commands daily. Tell yourself to do something small. Drink a glass of water, clean a desk, read a page, and do it immediately. These minor victories accumulate into major strength. The goal is not perfection, but consistency. The more often your mind obeys, the less resistance you'll encounter over time. It begins to trust your leadership. When a difficult task arises, it no longer rebels. it complies. This is how great athletes train their minds, how soldiers build resilience, how artists sustain creativity. It's not about forcing effort. It's about aligning thought and action into one unified motion. But even as you train obedience, remember to balance it with reflection. Discipline without understanding can become mechanical. You must periodically pause and ask if your commands serve your purpose. Obedience should lead to growth, not blind routine. The goal is to create harmony between intention and execution. When both move together, you operate with quiet power. The process is not without resistance. The mind will test your authority, especially in the beginning. It will tempt you to quit or compromise. This is natural. Every habit of weakness resists extinction. The key is consistency. Each time you enforce a command, you strengthen control. Each time you give in, you restart the cycle of debate. The choice is simple: obey your higher self or obey your comfort. One leads to mastery, the other to mediocrity. Training the mind to obey is ultimately about respect. Respect for your own word, your own vision, your own growth. When you decide that your commands are final, you reclaim your power. You no longer chase discipline, you embody it. You stop trying to convince yourself to act. You simply act, and with every obedient act, you build a foundation of trust, so strong that even in moments of doubt, your body moves before your mind hesitates. That is the mark of true discipline. The reward for obedience is freedom. When the mind obeys, you are no longer controlled by fear, laziness, or hesitation. You become the master of your actions, the architect of your destiny. You experience a quiet strength that few ever feel. The strength of certainty. Life becomes less about battling yourself and more about building yourself. You move through each day with steady purpose, unhindered by the noise of negotiation. In the end, discipline is not about punishing the mind, but purifying it. It's about stripping away the endless internal chatter until only action remains. A disciplined life begins with a simple rule: give orders and follow them without argument. When the mind learns obedience, freedom follows naturally. There is no longer conflict between intention and behavior, no longer a gap between decision and execution. There is only alignment, thought, word, and action moving as one. That unity is where mastery begins. And in that mastery, life transforms from chaos into command. Number 5. Master mornings. Momentum fuels entire day. The morning is the foundation of the day, and how you spend its first hours determines the rhythm of everything that follows. The quiet before the world awakens carries a power few recognize. It's in that stillness that you can choose to lead the day rather than chase it. Those who master their mornings don't do so out of routine alone. They understand that momentum, once built early, becomes the invisible force that sustains every decision, every action, every victory throughout the day. The morning is not just a time, it's a signal to your mind that discipline begins now. When you wake with intention, you set a tone of control. You declare to yourself that you are directing the day, not reacting to it. Most people begin their mornings in a fog of distraction. They reach for their phones, scroll through noise, and allow the outside world to dictate their first thoughts. By doing so, they surrender command before they've even stood up. Mastering your morning means reversing that order. It means protecting the first hour of your day as sacred territory, an hour that belongs solely to focus, growth, and clarity. Momentum is not an accident. It's built from a sequence of deliberate actions that carry energy forward. The first choices of the day often appear small: getting out of bed without hesitation, making the bed, exercising, meditating, reading. But each of those acts carries psychological weight. They communicate to the mind that you are awake with purpose, that action overrides comfort. The brain learns through repetition that mornings are not for delay but for direction. When you begin with movement, you silence the internal resistance that thrives on idleness. The simple act of doing becomes a declaration. The day has already begun on your terms. There is an invisible current that flows through the early hours, a sense of quiet ownership that disappears once the world demands your attention. That is why the most disciplined people guard their mornings with absolute seriousness. They understand that the first moments after waking are the purest opportunity for self-alignment. Before the noise of responsibility intrudes, before the flood of decisions begins, there exists a window where clarity is strongest. In that space, your actions carry amplified meaning. You are not distracted by urgency or emotion. You are shaping the tone of your own mind. To master your mornings, begin by defining what mastery means to you. It's not about waking up at an arbitrary hour or following someone else's formula. It's about using the morning as a launch pad for momentum that fuels the entire day. For some, it means physical movement, running, stretching, or training the body. For others, it's mental stillness, reading, writing, meditating, or planning. The specific action matters less than the intention behind it. You are choosing discipline over drift. The goal is to begin every day by proving to yourself that you are in control. Consistency is the key. Waking at the same time builds rhythm. The body adjusts. The mind adapts. When you rise with the sun, your energy aligns with the natural rhythm of life. Light becomes a cue for focus. The air feels cleaner, thoughts clearer. This repetition eliminates decision-making fatigue. You no longer wake debating whether to rise or rest. You simply do. The morning becomes predictable, but in that predictability lies strength. Each repetition reinforces identity. You are the kind of person who begins with purpose. Momentum built early creates psychological advantage. Success is often not about intensity, but about inertia. When the day begins with deliberate movement, your mind carries that forward into everything you touch. Tasks that once felt heavy become manageable because your brain is already operating in a state of engagement. You've built traction before obstacles appear. Most people waste their strongest hours in hesitation. The disciplined harness them to gain ground. It's easier to maintain momentum than to start from a standstill. That is why mastering mornings multiplies productivity. The first push propels the rest. The quality of your morning also determines the quality of your decisions. A rushed, chaotic start breeds confusion and stress. A calm, organized beginning breeds confidence and clarity. When you wake with structure, your mind approaches the day with order. You no longer react to chaos because you've already built calm within. This emotional stability becomes your advantage in a world addicted to distraction. You move with intention while others stumble through reactivity. To build this foundation, create a simple sequence of actions that signal focus. Wake at a fixed time. Hydrate. Move your body. Spend a few moments in silence to align your thoughts. Review your priorities. These are not rituals for the sake of habit. They are mechanisms for control. Each one reinforces the message that you command yourself. Over time, the mind begins to associate mornings with power, not fatigue. The body follows, energy rises, and momentum becomes self-sustaining. Eliminating friction is essential. Preparation the night before strengthens morning discipline. Set your clothes out. Prepare your workspace. Decide what you'll do first. Remove every barrier that could delay motion. Discipline thrives in simplicity. The fewer decisions required to begin, the smoother the transition from rest to action. This preparation transforms mornings from resistance into readiness. You no longer need to convince yourself to start. The path is already clear. Silence is another tool of mastery. Before the world demands attention, give yourself space to listen inwardly. The early hours offer a rare chance for reflection. A time to connect with thought before distraction intrudes. Whether through meditation, journaling, or quiet focus, use that stillness to center yourself. Clarity built in silence carries through the noise of the day. It reminds you that calm is not found, it is created. The strength of the morning also lies in discipline of pace. Many begin the day in a rush, chasing time rather than commanding it. True mastery is found in deliberate movement, not slowness, but control. When you begin calmly yet decisively, you conserve energy for what matters most. You are not scattered by urgency, but guided by precision. The morning becomes a rehearsal for the rest of your day. If you begin with order, you continue with order. Momentum is not only physical, it's mental. The first thoughts you feed your mind shape its tone. If you fill your head with negativity or distraction, that energy colors every action. Choose what enters your awareness wisely. Read something uplifting. Visualize your goals. Remind yourself of your direction. These acts of mental conditioning are subtle but powerful. They plant the mindset that carries you through challenges. Your thoughts in the first hour often determine your strength in the last. Mastering mornings also requires resilience. There will be days when fatigue pulls harder than willpower, when motivation is low, when nothing feels easy. Those are the days that define your discipline. Rising even then sends a message deeper than words. You are consistent regardless of circumstance. That constancy builds identity stronger than any temporary burst of inspiration. When you no longer depend on ideal conditions to begin, you have mastered not just mornings but yourself. As momentum builds day after day, it compounds. Each morning of effort strengthens the next. What once felt demanding becomes instinctive. You stop forcing yourself to wake early or act with discipline. You simply do, because it has become part of who you are. This transformation is quiet yet profound. You stop chasing change and start living it. The morning becomes not just a routine, but a reflection of inner order. Eventually, the benefits extend beyond productivity. Mastering mornings enhances peace. You move through the day with calm assurance, knowing you have already done the hard part. Starting, you face challenges with composure because you began in control. Your energy remains steady because you are not reacting. You are directing. You begin to realize that mastery of the morning is mastery of momentum, and mastery of momentum is mastery of life. The essence of discipline is found in the smallest moments. The decision to rise when it's easier to rest, to focus when distraction calls, to act with intention before the day demands it. These are the choices that shape character. The morning magnifies them because it's the first opportunity to prove who leads your purpose or your comfort. When purpose wins before sunrise, the rest of the day follows its lead. To master your mornings is to master your direction. To build momentum early is to live from strength instead of reaction. Each sunrise becomes a new beginning, a fresh chance to assert control, to move closer to your goals, to honor your discipline. The morning is not just the start of a day, it's the training ground of the mind. When you command it, you command everything that follows. Momentum is not luck. It is the natural result of mastering the first hour before the world wakes up. Number 6. Delay gratification to strengthen inner control. The ability to delay gratification is the foundation of self-mastery. It's the quiet power that separates those who drift through life from those who deliberately shape it. In a world obsessed with instant pleasure, immediate results, and fast rewards, patience has become a lost art. Yet it is precisely that art that builds lasting strength. True discipline isn't about denying yourself joy. It's about controlling when and how you experience it. The person who can delay gratification doesn't reject pleasure. They redefine it. They understand that waiting for something worthwhile is not punishment, but preparation. Every moment of temptation is a test of control. It's the space between desire and decision where your character is revealed. The mind naturally craves the path of least resistance. It wants comfort, ease, and reward without effort. This is an ancient instinct, a survival mechanism that once kept humans alive when resources were scarce. But in the modern world, where everything is within reach, that instinct works against you. The easy choice no longer ensures survival. It ensures stagnation. The harder choice, the one that requires patience, builds strength, focus, and long-term fulfillment. When you train yourself to wait, you strengthen the muscle of restraint. You begin to shift from reacting to responding. The difference is subtle but profound. Reaction is impulsive. It's driven by emotion and immediate gratification. Response is deliberate. It's driven by awareness and purpose. Every time you pause before acting, you reinforce the message that you, not your impulses, are in control. This control compounds over time, turning fleeting moments of resistance into enduring confidence. Delaying gratification begins in small ways. It's the choice to finish your work before checking your phone. It's the decision to save money instead of spending it on what you want right now. It's resisting the urge to speak when silence will serve you better. These moments seem trivial, but each one rewires the mind. The more often you choose patience over impulse, the easier it becomes. Self-control is not a gift. It's a trained skill developed through repetition. The most disciplined individuals are not free from temptation. They are free from its power. They experience desire like anyone else, but they do not surrender to it. They've learned that the sweetness of immediate reward fades quickly, while the satisfaction of earned success endures. They know that fulfillment is not about indulgence, but about integrity. The inner peace that comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you delay gratification, you reinforce that integrity. You prove to yourself that you can be trusted with your own potential. The path of discipline is built on the understanding that all growth requires discomfort. Waiting, working, and withholding are forms of controlled discomfort. They create tension in the mind, but that tension is productive. It's the same kind of tension that strengthens muscles under resistance. The more you endure it, the stronger you become. This is why those who can delay gratification excel in every area of life. They can commit to long-term goals without being derailed by short-term pleasure. They can push through challenges because they value progress more than ease. In the pursuit of mastery, delay is not a setback. It's a strategy. Every great achievement is built on time. The athlete who trains daily, the artist who practices for years, the entrepreneur who reinvests profits instead of spending them, all are guided by the same principle: sacrifice now to gain later. The reward may not come today, but it compounds silently. Patience turns effort into momentum and consistency into excellence. Impulsiveness steals both. To cultivate this power, begin by reframing your relationship with time. Most people see waiting as wasted effort. They want results now because they equate speed with success. But real success doesn't happen in bursts. It grows in layers. When you delay gratification, you give time the space to do its work. Progress may be invisible at first, but beneath the surface, transformation is taking place. The seed doesn't bloom immediately after planting, yet every day it spends underground strengthens its roots. Your goals follow the same law. Resisting instant pleasure also builds mental clarity. Impulsive gratification clouds judgment because it's reactive. When you learn to pause, you create space between emotion and action. That space allows wisdom to speak. You begin to act from reason, not from craving. This clarity becomes one of your greatest advantages. While others chase momentary satisfaction, you pursue meaningful achievement. While they burn out chasing short-term highs, you conserve energy for what truly matters. In moments of temptation, awareness is your greatest weapon. You must recognize when desire arises and observe it without acting on it. The goal is not to suppress it, but to understand it. Ask yourself why you want what you want. Is it genuine need or emotional escape? Is it aligned with your values or just an impulse to feel good quickly? This self-questioning weakens the grip of temptation because it forces you to think, and thought slows reaction. You cannot crave mindlessly when you are thinking deliberately. Delaying gratification also strengthens your relationship with effort. The more you practice restraint, the more comfortable you become with doing hard things without expecting immediate payoff. This mindset builds resilience. You start to see challenges not as obstacles but as tests of endurance. Every delay becomes proof that you are capable of holding your ground. You begin to crave the discipline itself, not the reward it leads to. That shift marks the birth of inner power. Modern life constantly pushes against this principle. Every app, ad, and algorithm is designed to shorten the distance between desire and reward. Notifications, fast delivery, endless entertainment, all feed the addiction to instant satisfaction. To delay gratification in this environment is an act of rebellion. It's a decision to rise above abandon and live intentionally. You reclaim your attention from the external world and redirect it toward what truly serves your growth. Each moment of resistance becomes a victory over a culture that profits from your impatience. Financial, emotional, and physical self-control all stem from this same core principle. The investor who delays spending builds wealth. The partner who pauses before reacting builds trust. The individual who postpones indulgence in comfort builds endurance. Across all domains, the pattern holds. Patience produces strength. The more you master it, the more predictable your success becomes. Discipline turns randomness into reliability. You stop depending on luck and start relying on yourself. There's a deep satisfaction that comes from earning what you desire rather than receiving it immediately. The wait adds value because it creates contrast. You appreciate the result more because you invested time, energy, and restraint into achieving it. Instant rewards are hollow because they skip the struggle, and struggle is what gives meaning. The reward without the wait is like a story without a journey, empty, forgettable, without depth. To strengthen your control, practice delaying gratification in everyday situations. When you feel the urge to check your messages, wait 5 more minutes. When you crave something sweet, drink water first, and let the desire settle. When you want to quit a task, finish one more section before resting. These acts may seem small, but they accumulate power. They train your mind to separate wanting from acting. Over time, that separation becomes instinctive. You begin to feel a quiet pride in your restraint, a confidence that no temptation can easily sway you. This practice also teaches patience with others and with life itself. Not everything unfolds on your timeline, and that's not a failure, it's reality. By accepting this truth, you release frustration and replace it with focus. You learn that control doesn't mean forcing outcomes, it means controlling your response to uncertainty. The same strength that helps you delay gratification in small moments will help you endure longer seasons of waiting. The principle is universal. The longer you can hold steady without giving in, the greater your eventual reward. When you live by this discipline, you discover a sense of freedom that instant gratification can never provide. You are no longer enslaved by craving or impulse. You act from intention, not emotion. You become dependable in a world driven by impulse. This reliability extends beyond habits. It defines character. People who can wait without losing purpose are unshakable. They carry calm where others carry chaos. They make progress when others chase pleasure. The strength to delay gratification is the strength to live consciously. It's the mastery of impulse, the quiet refusal to be ruled by fleeting desire. Each act of restraint builds a foundation of control that extends into every area of your life. You begin to realize that what you delay today becomes what you enjoy tomorrow. Magnified, meaningful, and truly yours. The instant may be tempting, but the lasting is transformative. Those who wait with discipline gain not only what they want, but also who they are meant to become. Number 7. Eliminate distractions before they eliminate focus. Focus is the foundation upon which every form of progress is built. It is the mental force that transforms intention into achievement, the quiet strength that allows you to finish what most people only start. Yet in the modern world, focus is under attack. Distractions come dressed as necessities, notifications, conversations, endless information, and constant noise. They whisper promises of importance, but they rob you of clarity. Every interruption, every pull of attention, steals a fragment of your potential. The truth is simple. If you don't eliminate distractions, they will eliminate your focus, and once focus is gone, discipline quickly follows. The human mind was never designed to process constant stimulation. It craves clarity, but chaos keeps it restless. Distraction isn't just an external problem. It becomes internalized until your thoughts scatter before you even begin. The more often you allow your attention to drift, the harder it becomes to hold it steady. Concentration weakens with neglect, just like a muscle that goes unused. To strengthen it, you must first identify what weakens it. That requires brutal honesty. You must confront the small, seductive habits that pull you away from what truly matters. The casual checking of your phone, the unnecessary browsing, the conversations that add no value but consume your energy. Most distractions aren't accidents. They are chosen unconsciously. They offer a convenient escape from effort. Focus requires energy, while distraction provides comfort. It's easier to scroll, to multitask, to wander between half-finished things, than to commit deeply to one meaningful task. But every time you indulge that comfort, you train your mind to run from depth. You become addicted to surface-level engagement, unable to sustain attention long enough to create real impact. The disciplined individual learns to reverse that pattern, to choose depth over distraction, substance over stimulation. The process begins by creating awareness. You must notice how often your attention fractures during the day, Track the small interruptions that seem harmless but accumulate into hours of lost productivity. The phone that buzzes every few minutes, the email tab left open, the television playing in the background. All these things fragment the mind. When you become aware of these subtle leaks, you gain the power to close them. You realize that distraction is not a matter of bad luck, it's a matter of poor design. To protect your focus, design your environment for intention. A cluttered space breeds a cluttered mind. Remove anything that doesn't serve your goal. Organize your surroundings so that only what supports your purpose remains visible. The fewer sensory cues competing for attention, the easier it becomes to stay centered. This is why monks, artists, and thinkers throughout history sought simplicity. The absence of excess sharpens the presence of thought. Your environment should echo your priority. If you want clarity, create space for it to exist. Technology is the most dangerous form of distraction because it's engineered to capture your attention. Every notification, vibration, and visual cue is designed to trigger curiosity and pull you away from focus. The only way to regain control is through deliberate limitation. Turn off non-essential alerts. Keep your devices out of reach when working. Schedule specific times to check messages rather than allowing them to dictate your rhythm. Each small boundary you set is an act of self-respect, a statement that your attention is valuable and not for sale. Beyond the physical, distraction often originates in the mind itself. Internal noise, worry, overthinking, impatience can be just as destructive as external interruptions. To eliminate this form of distraction, you must learn to calm your inner dialogue. Practicing mindfulness, controlled breathing, or journaling helps still the mental clutter. When your thoughts are organized, focus flows naturally. You can't control how the world behaves, but you can control the state of your own mind. Inner stillness becomes the shield against outer chaos. Focus also thrives on clarity of purpose. When your goals are vague, distractions find room to thrive. The mind seeks direction, and when none is given, it fills the void with whatever stimulation is available. Define exactly what you're working toward. Break it into specific steps. The clearer the target, the less energy is wasted on confusion. You can't aim sharply if your purpose is blurry. Direction anchors discipline, and once anchored, distractions lose their strength. Another powerful strategy for eliminating distractions is managing your energy, not just your time. Focus fades when energy is low. Fatigue invites temptation. When you are tired, the brain naturally seeks relief, and distractions provide it. Guard your physical well-being as fiercely as your schedule. Proper rest, hydration, and nutrition directly affect mental clarity. The stronger your body, the steadier your focus. Discipline isn't sustained by willpower alone. It's supported by energy that fuels consistency. Multitasking is one of the greatest modern myths. It gives the illusion of productivity while quietly destroying depth. The brain can't truly focus on more than one demanding task at a time. It only switches rapidly between them, losing efficiency with each shift. Every switch carries a mental cost. Focus is fractured, momentum is broken, and quality declines. True discipline means working in deep, uninterrupted blocks of time. When you give one task your full attention, it receives your full potential. To cultivate this deep focus, adopt a rhythm of work and renewal. Concentrate fully for a set period, then rest briefly before returning with renewed energy. This rhythm mirrors nature itself, expansion followed by recovery. The purpose of rest is not escape, but restoration. By managing your energy in cycles, you sustain focus longer without burnout. Distraction loses its grip when your mind feels both challenged and refreshed. Discipline in attention also demands boundaries with people. Not every request deserves your immediate response. Constant availability is the enemy of meaningful work. Learn to say no with conviction. Protecting your focus may inconvenience others, but it preserves your growth. Those who respect your boundaries respect your purpose. Those who don't reveal their priorities. You cannot serve everyone without losing yourself. Another subtle but powerful form of distraction is emotional. Unresolved stress, anger, or anxiety consumes mental bandwidth. When your emotions dominate, focus fractures. Address emotional clutter directly through honest reflection, communication, or stillness, rather than escaping it through constant busyness. Emotional control strengthens mental focus. A calm heart produces a clear mind, and a clear mind executes with precision. In mastering focus, you must also master solitude. Distraction often thrives because people fear stillness. They avoid silence because it forces confrontation with their thoughts. Yet solitude is not loneliness. It is the workshop of clarity. Time alone allows the mind to settle, to hear itself think, to realign with purpose. Those who spend time in solitude learn to direct their own attention rather than surrendering it to noise. From solitude comes strength, because when you no longer fear being alone, you no longer need constant stimulation. The disciplined person eliminates distraction before it appears. They anticipate it. They build systems that protect focus automatically. Scheduled routines, intentional environments, structured habits. This foresight removes the need for constant decision-making. You don't have to resist distraction every time if you've already built walls around your attention. Preparation beats reaction. The more structure you create, the more freedom you gain. The cost of distraction is not just lost time, it's lost potential. Every unfocused moment subtracts from what could have been created, learned, or improved. Focus compounds just like interest. A few uninterrupted hours daily yield extraordinary progress over time, while scattered effort produces nothing lasting. The difference between mediocrity and mastery often lies not in talent, but in the ability to sustain attention long after others have drifted away. Focus is the purest expression of respect for your goals, your time, and yourself. When you eliminate distractions, you send a message to your own mind. Your purpose matters more than your comfort. You stop living reactively and start living intentionally. You discover that deep concentration is not a burden, but a form of peace. In focus, there is silence, flow, and fulfillment. You no longer chase everything because you are building something. Ultimately, the ability to focus deeply in a distracted world is a form of power. It allows you to accomplish what others only imagine, to finish what others abandon, to rise while others drift. Distractions will always exist, but they only control you if you permit them. The disciplined mind doesn't fight them endlessly. It outgrows them. When your purpose is stronger than your impulses, distraction loses its hold. You realize that focus is freedom, and every moment of clarity is a victory over chaos. To eliminate distraction is to reclaim your life, one deliberate moment at a time. Number 8. Commit publicly. Accountability enforces consistency. Accountability is the bridge between intention and execution. It transforms private promises into public commitments, forcing you to honor your word beyond comfort or convenience. When you keep your goals hidden, you leave yourself room to negotiate, to delay, to quietly abandon what you once declared important. But when you commit publicly, you remove that escape. You bind your actions to your reputation. The fear of disappointing others, the pressure of expectation, and the pride of follow-through combine into a powerful motivator. Accountability doesn't weaken independence. It strengthens integrity. It forces your discipline to stand where motivation alone would crumble. There's a unique kind of energy that comes from making your intentions known. Speaking your goals aloud gives them form. It converts vague ambition into something tangible, something measurable. Once your words are out in the open, they carry weight. They no longer exist as ideas floating in your mind. They exist as promises tied to your name. The human instinct to maintain consistency between words and actions becomes a force for discipline. You feel a natural discomfort when your behavior doesn't match what you've declared. That discomfort can be painful, but it's also productive. It drives you to align with your commitments. Most people fail to follow through, not because they lack desire, but because they lack consequence. A private goal has no witness. There's no one to notice when you skip, when you quit, or when you settle for less. Public accountability introduces consequence, and consequence fuels consistency. When others know your standard, it becomes harder to lower it. You begin to act not only for yourself, but for the example you're setting. That sense of responsibility turns pressure into progress. The desire to be reliable becomes stronger than the urge to quit. True accountability, however, is not about seeking approval or applause. It's not about performing for an audience. It's about creating external reinforcement for internal discipline. When you involve others in your journey, you invite support, challenge, and reflection. You create a circle that keeps you honest when your willpower wavers. This doesn't mean you owe explanations for every choice, but it does mean you welcome oversight for the goals that matter most. Accountability partners, mentors, or teams serve as mirrors. They reflect the truth you might avoid seeing. Public commitment also eliminates the illusion of isolation. When you pursue something difficult, the mind often seeks escape in secrecy. It tells you to keep quiet until you succeed, to hide your effort in case you fail. But that secrecy feeds inconsistency because it gives you permission to retreat unnoticed. When you make your intentions known, that hiding place disappears. You are forced to show up because others now expect it. You transform fear of exposure into fuel for execution. This principle is as old as human civilization. Ancient warriors swore oaths before battle. Craftsmen promised their patrons results. Philosophers declared their principles before students. The act of public commitment has always carried transformative power because it ties personal growth to social responsibility. When you give your word, it becomes sacred. Breaking it damages not just your goals but your character. The disciplined person understands this and uses it as leverage to stay consistent when comfort tempts them to drift. Accountability can take many forms. It can be as direct as telling a trusted friend your specific goals and deadlines. It can be as structured as joining a group that tracks progress and expects updates. It can even be digital, sharing your progress publicly, posting results, or reporting milestones. The format matters less than the function. Visibility. What's visible becomes real. When others can see your actions, your own awareness of them heightens. You hold yourself to a higher standard because your effort is no longer private. It's on display. However, accountability is not about perfection. It's about consistency. The purpose of committing publicly is not to impress others with flawless execution, but to build reliability through persistence. Even when you falter, transparency keeps you honest. Admitting failure openly resets focus faster than hiding it. It allows growth to continue instead of stagnating under guilt or denial. When accountability is embraced with humility, it becomes a tool for resilience rather than shame. The disciplined person understands that accountability multiplies commitment. Every time you declare your goal to another person, you make it harder to retreat into excuses. You start to think beyond your comfort, because the standard is no longer self-imposed. It's shared. That external expectation becomes an invisible hand pushing you forward when motivation disappears. You don't want to explain why you stopped, so you keep going. You don't want to betray your word, so you persist. What once required willpower now runs on integrity. Public commitment also cultivates courage. It takes bravery to declare your ambitions before you've achieved them. It's easy to speak once you've succeeded. It's hard to speak when you're still building, but that vulnerability breeds growth. Declaring your intent exposes you to risk, the risk of failure, judgment, or ridicule. But it also gives you strength to face those fears. The very act of stating your goal becomes an act of defiance against doubt. You begin to trust yourself more deeply because you've taken ownership of your path. Accountability doesn't mean surrendering control of your life to others. It means using their presence as reinforcement for your values. You remain responsible for your effort, but you leverage the power of community to maintain direction. When others witness your persistence, it inspires them to hold themselves accountable too. Discipline spreads through example. The person who honors their word becomes a model of integrity in a world full of empty promises. One of the most effective ways to use accountability is to attach deadlines to your commitments. A goal without a time frame is just a wish. When you declare both your objective and your timeline, you create urgency. That urgency pushes you to act today, not someday. It prevents the slow decay of procrastination that hides behind vague intentions. Every time you report progress, you reinforce the momentum that keeps consistency alive. You can also strengthen accountability by rewarding progress publicly. Celebrate small wins not for applause but for reinforcement. Positive recognition, whether from yourself or others, cements the value of perseverance, reminds you that consistency is noticed, that effort matters, that growth is visible even before the final goal is reached. Recognition fuels endurance by connecting hard work to tangible acknowledgement. Equally important is choosing the right people to hold you accountable. Not everyone deserves a front row seat to your journey. Choose those who challenge you with honesty, not flattery. Choose those who believe in your potential but won't tolerate your excuses. The wrong audience will comfort your mediocrity. The right one will call out your complacency. Accountability thrives in truth, not approval. In the process of committing publicly, something deeper occurs. You begin to take yourself more seriously. You stop treating discipline as an optional effort and start treating it as a promise to live by. You begin to view your words as contracts. Each promise you make, each declaration you state, becomes an opportunity to prove alignment between intention and action. The more often you keep your word, the more powerful your identity becomes. You stop identifying as someone who tries and start seeing yourself as someone who finishes. There is also a profound humility that comes with accountability. It teaches that no one succeeds alone. Every disciplined life is built with the help of others who challenge, encourage, and hold to standard. Asking for accountability is not weakness. It's wisdom. It's a recognition that strength grows in structure. When you welcome others into your process, you replace ego with evolution. You learn faster, recover quicker, and sustain discipline longer. Eventually, accountability evolves from external pressure to internal principle. What begins as fear of disappointing others becomes a refusal to disappoint yourself. You start to uphold your word even when no one is watching, because you've built a reputation with yourself. Your consistency becomes self-enforcing. This is the highest level of discipline, to act with the same integrity in private that you display in public. Accountability begins as a tool but matures into identity. Committing publicly is not about performance, it's about transformation. It's about harnessing the psychological power of visibility to push beyond comfort and sustain momentum when willpower fades. The moment you make your intentions known, you set a standard you must meet. The moment you follow through, you prove that discipline isn't just what you do, it's who you are. Accountability turns promises into principles, into power. Those who embrace it never rely on fleeting motivation because their consistency is bound by something stronger. The unshakable weight of their own word. Number 9. Reward progress, not perfection, every day. Perfection is a myth that destroys progress. It paralyzes action, traps effort, and convinces you that anything less than flawless isn't worth doing. But discipline doesn't grow in perfection. It grows in persistence. The greatest mistake people make when building discipline is believing that every day must be perfect, that every habit must be completed without flaw, that every goal must unfold exactly as planned. That expectation breeds frustration, and frustration leads to quitting. Real mastery comes from learning to reward progress, the quiet steps forward that build the foundation of true excellence. When you shift your focus from perfection to progress, you give yourself permission to keep moving, even when things aren't ideal. You stop chasing the illusion of perfect days and start stacking real ones. Progress is movement. It's showing up when you don't feel like it, even if it's only for a few minutes. It's completing 8 push-ups instead of 10, but still honoring your effort. It's writing a single paragraph on a day you wanted to write a chapter. It's choosing water over soda once more than yesterday. Small victories compound in silence. They don't make noise, but over time, they reshape your identity. Every act of progress strengthens your self-trust. It tells your mind that you're consistent, that you keep promises, that you don't depend on perfection to stay committed. The danger of perfectionism is that it disguises itself as high standards. It makes you believe you're simply aiming for excellence, when in truth you're avoiding failure. Perfection demands all or nothing. Progress accepts imperfection and keeps going anyway. One path ends in burnout. The other leads to growth. The disciplined person understands this difference. They measure success not by flawless execution, but by honest effort. They don't ask, was it perfect? They ask, did I move forward today? Rewarding progress doesn't mean lowering standards. It means recognizing that consistency is more valuable than intensity. The person who does a little every day will always outperform the one who does a lot occasionally. You cannot sustain perfection. It breaks under its own weight. But you can sustain progress because it allows flexibility, forgiveness, and adaptation. Life is unpredictable. Circumstances shift. Perfection collapses in chaos. But progress endures because it bends without breaking. Each time you acknowledge progress, you reinforce behavior. The human brain is wired to repeat what feels rewarding. When you celebrate effort, no matter how small, you train your mind to associate discipline with satisfaction, rather than punishment. The problem is that many people only reward outcomes. They only celebrate the goal, not the grind. They wait for the finish line to feel proud. But the finish line is rare, the process is daily. If you only feel good at the end, you'll lose motivation long before you arrive. Rewarding progress keeps the fire alive along the journey. Progress is deeply personal. It doesn't always look dramatic. It might be a subtle shift in thought, a moment of restraint, a decision made with clarity instead of impulse. The smallest changes often create the largest results when sustained over time. Every time you notice one of these shifts, you should acknowledge it, not with grand celebration, but with quiet respect. A simple moment of reflection, a written note, or a whispered good job to yourself builds internal validation. It teaches your mind that you are worthy of recognition, even when you're still becoming. Discipline requires endurance, and endurance grows through encouragement. If every effort feels like failure because it wasn't perfect, your spirit will wither. But when you see each effort as progress, your spirit thrives. You start to enjoy the process instead of dreading it. You begin to feel fulfillment in the journey itself. This is where real transformation happens, not in the rare moments of triumph, but in the daily decision to show up, give what you can, and appreciate that you're moving forward. There's a quiet strength in rewarding progress. It teaches humility and patience. It keeps you grounded in the present instead of obsessed with the future. When you appreciate small victories, you no longer crave instant results. You understand that mastery is earned through accumulation, not acceleration. Each day becomes a brick, and progress is the mortar that binds them together. If you lay enough bricks with care, the structure of discipline becomes unshakable. The act of rewarding progress also breaks the cycle of guilt. Many people build discipline with self-criticism. They punish themselves for missing days, for slipping up, for not performing perfectly. That mindset destroys confidence. It turns discipline into a burden instead of a privilege. The disciplined person knows that guilt is a poor teacher. Reflection is better. When you make a mistake, you don't need to shame yourself. You need to learn and return. Rewarding progress shifts your focus from what went wrong to what went right, even in the smallest measure. It's not about ignoring flaws. It's about balancing accountability with grace. Reward doesn't always mean external gifts or celebrations. Sometimes the reward is internal acknowledgement. It's the satisfaction of tracking your streak, the pride in seeing your consistency, the peace that comes from knowing you honored your word. However, occasional tangible rewards can strengthen motivation too. Treat yourself after completing a milestone. Allow moments of joy to mark your progress. They act as anchors that remind you why discipline matters. Reward turns repetition into ritual, transforming mundane actions into meaningful progress. Measuring progress requires awareness. You can't reward what you don't recognize. Keep track of your growth through reflection or journaling. Write down what you did well each day. It could be something simple like, I chose patience over frustration, or I finished the task even when I was tired. Over time, you'll start seeing patterns, evidence that you're becoming the person you aim to be. That evidence is powerful. It builds belief. Belief is what sustains discipline when results aren't yet visible. Progress, unlike perfection, allows for humanity. It makes room for bad days, setbacks, and fatigue. It understands that consistency is not the absence of failure, but the refusal to stop because of it. Rewarding progress teaches resilience. You begin to see challenges as part of growth, rather than signs of weakness. You start embracing imperfection as the raw material of excellence. Every flaw becomes feedback. Every stumble becomes a step. Every delay becomes a lesson in patience. One of the most liberating truths about rewarding progress is that it keeps comparison away. When you measure yourself against perfection, you're always falling short. When you measure yourself against yesterday, you're always improving. The disciplined person competes only with who they were before. That quiet competition is empowering. It keeps the focus inward, where real change happens. You stop chasing approval and start chasing alignment. Progress is not always visible to others, but it must always be visible to you. Discipline thrives in internal validation. Waiting for others to acknowledge your growth can trap you in dependence. True progress is self-noticed and self-celebrated. You become your own motivator, your own supporter, your own witness. That independence strengthens your foundation. It ensures that your commitment isn't tied to external praise. Rewarding progress daily creates momentum. Each small victory builds energy for the next. You start the day with purpose because you've trained your mind to recognize growth. Momentum becomes your ally. Instead of waiting for motivation to appear, you carry the momentum from yesterday's effort into today's action. It's a cycle of positive reinforcement that transforms discipline from a struggle into a natural rhythm. The truth is, perfection is fragile. One mistake breaks it. Progress is indestructible. No single failure can erase a pattern of persistence. That's why progress is the only path to mastery. You can't control perfection, but you can control progress. You can always take one more step, one more action, one more breath of effort. That's the secret of disciplined living. Not flawless days, but faithful ones. Rewarding progress daily teaches gratitude for the journey. It opens your eyes to the beauty of becoming. Each step forward, no matter how small, becomes a reminder that you are evolving. You stop chasing a distant ideal and start honoring the person you are building. You realize that the process itself is the prize. Discipline ceases to be a punishment and becomes a practice of love, a commitment to growth that respects effort as much as outcome. In the end, those who reward progress live lighter, last longer, and grow deeper. They don't burn out chasing perfection. They rise through persistence. Each day they plant seeds of consistency, water them with patience, and trust time to bring the harvest. Discipline built on progress doesn't crumble under pressure. It thrives through imperfection. And when you learn to see progress as enough, you realize it always was. Because perfection was never the goal. Becoming better, one honest effort at a time, always will be. Number 10. Visualize success, then act relentlessly disciplined. Everything begins in the mind. Before any great achievement exists in the world, it must first exist in imagination. The disciplined person understands this truth deeply. What you visualize with clarity becomes what you pursue with intensity. Vision gives direction. Discipline provides motion. One without the other is incomplete. To visualize success is to create a mental blueprint of what your future demands. To act relentlessly disciplined is to build that blueprint into reality, brick by brick, day after day, until it stands before you exactly as you once saw it in your mind. Visualization is not daydreaming. It is not idle fantasy or escapism. It is focused mental rehearsal, a deliberate act of seeing the outcome before it happens and feeling the effort it will require. The most successful individuals don't wait for confidence to appear. They manufacture it through visualization. They see themselves performing the actions long before the world witnesses them. This mental clarity turns uncertainty into certainty. It creates a psychological map, guiding behavior even when motivation fades. When you visualize success vividly enough, your body begins to act in alignment with that image. The mind can't distinguish between imagined experience and lived experience. So when you repeatedly visualize excellence, you train yourself to expect it, to behave as if it's already yours. However, visualization without disciplined action is useless. Too many people imagine greatness but refuse the grind it demands. They confuse inspiration with execution. True visualization doesn't end with seeing. It begins with doing. Once you've built a mental image of success, the next step is to match that image with effort, so consistent it becomes automatic. Every action must reflect the vision. The disciplined mind does not fantasize about the result. It rehearses the process. It doesn't picture the trophy. It pictures the daily training that earns it. Visualization should never be about comfort. It should be about preparation. When you imagine success, don't only see the finish line, see the challenges along the way. See the early mornings, the missed distractions, the difficult decisions. Visualize yourself staying composed when things fall apart. Visualize the fatigue, the setbacks, the uncertainty, and then see yourself persisting through all of it. This kind of visualization builds mental toughness. It inoculates you against failure because you've already faced it in your mind. You've rehearsed resilience, so when hardship comes, it feels familiar, manageable, even expected. The undisciplined person visualizes victory. The disciplined one visualizes endurance. Relentless discipline is the bridge between vision and achievement. It's what transforms an idea into evidence. Acting with relentless discipline means showing up with the same intensity on the ordinary days as on the inspired ones. It means committing to effort even when enthusiasm fades. Trusting that consistent execution will carry you where emotion cannot. You cannot selectively apply discipline. It must become a constant state of being. When you act relentlessly, you erase hesitation. You don't wait for motivation. You obey the plan. You don't ask, "Do I feel like it?" You ask, "What needs to be done?" That simple shift from emotion to execution defines the difference between those who dream and those who achieve. There's a powerful alignment that happens when your vision and your discipline merge. You start living with purpose. Every choice becomes filtered through the question, does this bring me closer to what I've visualized? That clarity eliminates distraction. It simplifies decision-making. You stop wasting energy on things that don't align with your vision. Because anything that weakens focus weakens discipline. A clear vision sharpens the will. It reminds you why you started and why you can't stop. When you forget your why, discipline feels heavy. When you hold your vision close, it becomes lighter, almost magnetic. To visualize success effectively, you must be specific. Vague dreams produce vague results. Picture details. The environment, the sounds, the feelings, the effort. Imagine yourself performing with precision, handling difficulties calmly, staying consistent when no one's watching. Your vision should not just inspire you, it should instruct you. When done right, visualization acts like a rehearsal script for your future behavior. It reduces uncertainty because you've already walked through the path mentally. The mind begins to see challenges not as surprises but as familiar terrain. That familiarity builds confidence, and confidence fuels consistency. Relentless discipline doesn't mean intensity without rest. It means commitment without compromise. It's not about working endlessly but working purposefully. When your actions reflect your vision, even rest becomes part of discipline because it serves the goal. The person who acts relentlessly disciplined knows when to push and when to recover, not based on emotion but strategy. They understand that sustainability matters more than bursts of effort. They act from principle, not impulse. The disciplined pursuit of a vision also demands patience. Visualization can ignite excitement, but the path to realization is long, and the process often unfolds slower than imagined. This is where many quit. They see the vision but lose faith in the timeline. Relentless discipline guards against this impatience. It keeps you anchored to effort instead of expectation. You learn to measure progress not by how far you've gone, but by how faithfully you've acted. Each disciplined day becomes proof that your vision is alive, even if it's still invisible. When you visualize success daily, you strengthen identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to change and start seeing yourself as someone who is changing. That mental shift is profound. The more clearly you see yourself as capable, consistent, and committed, the more naturally your behavior aligns with that identity. Your actions stop feeling forced. They start feeling inevitable. Visualization plants the seed of that identity. Disciplined action waters it until it becomes your reality. The relationship between vision and discipline is like breath and body. One gives life, the other gives form. Without vision, discipline loses direction. It becomes mechanical, hollow, aimless. Without discipline, vision remains fantasy, bright, but fragile, destined to fade. Together they create unstoppable momentum. Every time you visualize, you remind yourself where you're going. Every time you act, you move closer to it. Over time, the distance between imagination and reality shrinks until they merge into one. Visualization also strengthens emotional control. When you rehearse success in your mind, you practice staying composed under pressure. You picture calmness amid chaos. This mental training reduces anxiety and improves focus in real situations. You've already faced the challenge mentally, so it no longer feels foreign. That composure is what separates disciplined performers from reactive ones. Discipline is not just persistence, it's control under pressure, precision under stress. Visualization prepares you for that control. The most powerful part of this process is belief. Every act of visualization reinforces belief, and every act of discipline reinforces proof. Belief fuels effort. Effort confirms belief. It becomes a self-sustaining cycle. The more you see it, the more you do it. The more you do it, the more you believe it. Over time, your vision stops being a distant goal and starts becoming your daily reality. That's how transformation happens. Not in one grand leap, but in countless small steps guided by a clear vision and enforced by relentless discipline. Success built this way is unshakable because it's rooted in both imagination and action. You've created it twice, first in the mind, then in the world. Each time you visualize, you're building the blueprint. Each time you act, you're laying the brick. You may not notice progress each day, but faith in the process keeps you moving. Visualization keeps the fire alive. Discipline keeps it burning. To live relentlessly disciplined means to act as though your vision already depends on you. Because it does. No one else can see what you see. No one else can act for you. Every small act of discipline is a step closer to bringing your vision into existence. The person who understands this stops waiting for the perfect moment. They create the moment through action. They know that success is not a sudden arrival. It's a gradual becoming, built one deliberate choice at a time. When you visualize success, you are making a promise to yourself. When you act relentlessly disciplined, you are keeping that promise. The two together form the essence of mastery. You no longer live reactively. You live intentionally. You no longer wish you were. Each day becomes an act of alignment between who you are and who you aim to be. And when your vision and discipline finally converge, success doesn't surprise you. You recognize it instantly because you've already lived it 1,000 times in your mind. And now, through relentless discipline, you've made it real.